It's Final Word Daily. Adam Collins and Geoff Lemon at the end of the second day at Lords. An absorbing day at that between England and India. 10 wickets and about 200-odd runs. But, Geoff, detail all of it in 30 seconds, please.
2-7-6 for 3 when the day started. England needed early wickets and they got them. Got the overnight pair, both of them quickly, and then Pant and Jadeja came in. They made about 80 between them, whacked a few around. India's tail, no good. 4 batsmen, 8 runs between them. 3-6-4, not enough from where they started. Didn't kick on. England 2 for 20 as usual. Burns though and Root steadied things. 85 they put on. Burns out for 49 shortly before stumps. Root still there on 46 there. 3 for 119.
Nicely done. Much as it was at Nottingham last week, it was all about wickets at the start of a session. So, second ball of the day, Ollie Robinson picks up the not-out man, KL Rahul for 129, caught in the onside, much as it was with Dom Sibley about 5 hours later. But then the seventh ball of the day, James Anderson gets a second breakthrough, that of Ajinkya Rahane. So India, they weren't wobbling, but some of the good work from the previous evening was undone. And in the end, I think they only added 78 runs to their overnight tally, something like that. And England, on the other side of it, you start the third session, and a remarkable stretch of cricket. Mohammad Siraj goes bang, bang, second ball and third ball. The Haseeb Hameed story, the fairy tale really, returning to Test cricket. It was finished in the space of 2 minutes, losing his off stump. That was immediately after Dom Sibley shoveled one into the onside, just as he had last week, and then they were wobbling at 23 for 2. And then Joe Root and Burns steady the ship, did so well. And then Burns gets out just before the close of play. So a bit of a pattern through the series that it's at the start of a session or the end of the session that the big moments happen.
Yeah, that was absolutely the case. Obviously tricky to start and tricky at the end of the day when the light goes and there's just that temptation, just play a shot that you mightn't have, just make a mistake here or there. But losing the first couple early, KL Rahul and Rahane getting out early, it didn't necessarily mean India were in trouble, but that prospect of the tail that isn't, or the tail that is only a tail, was there the whole way through. When your number 11 bats at number 8 and your other number 11 bats at 9 and your third number 11 bats at 10 and then you've got your number 11, there's a lot for everybody above that to do. And I think, Rishabh Pant isn't going to come off every time. He looked pretty good. He made 37. He counter-attacked. I liked the way he did it. He came down the wicket at everybody. Didn't matter if you were Mark Wood. Didn't matter if the bowling was 96 miles an hour or 76 miles an hour. He was still going to come down the wicket when he felt like it and put a few away. But didn't go large on that occasion. And I feel like Ravindra Jadeja hasn't been able to show what he can actually do because he's got such a poor tail to work with. He doesn't have that bit of support. He doesn't have a decent number 8 to stick with him for a while, or he hasn't had in this series. So he's been forced to hit out towards the end being when number 8 comes in, because he knows that they're not going to last very long. And so we keep seeing Jadeja making these sort of scores of 40 or 50 when with more support he could be making 70s, 80s, 100s.
Yeah, I think the time has come to stop thinking of Jadeja as a 7, really, because it's not sustainable to be shielding the tail at 8 if you're coming in at 7. I mean, he puts on, I think it was 45 with Rishabh, thereabouts, and Rishabh gets out to Mark Wood. Good bit of bowling from Wood too. He was swung around to the pavilion end and it did the trick immediately. Wood getting himself in the book after doing so much hard work yesterday, banging it in short and trying to make something happen on a slow pitch, or at least an unresponsive pitch. Maybe not slow, but not as bouncy as they may have thought when they won the toss and bowled first at the toss yesterday. So, yeah, when they were opened up, as soon as Punt leaves, Jadeja he wasn't declining singles when Shami was there, because Shami was out second ball. But as soon as he had Ishant Sharma coming in at number 9, I mean, I can't imagine there's been a weaker number 9 in Test cricket. No disrespect to Ishant Sharma, by the way, but if he's your 9, I mean, he's an 11. Shami's ostensibly an 11 as well. So, yeah, I mean, I get that you shouldn't be picking cricket teams based on how well the bowlers can bat. It's more a structural shortcoming about where Jadeja fits in when, as you say, he can look as good as he does, as he did for periods today, knowing that he's declining singles and kind of playing the milking the strike game, and he's on 20-odd rather than doing it when he's batting with the number 10 or maybe the number 11 like it would be in most Test teams.
I'll tell you a question that has come up a lot from people in the comments on these videos is about the composition of the 11, whether Ashwin should be there at 8 with 3 quicks. Well, some people are saying Ashwin should play instead of Jadeja, which you and I would agree is nonsense because Jadeja offers a lot more than he's bowling. Jadeja at 7 balances the side, and then you've got a choice of either 3 quicks with Ashwin or 4 fast bowlers. Now, that's not a bad choice to make with the 4 fast bowlers for Lords, where, tends to favour seam bowlers. But given some of the venues they've got coming up, Manchester, Leeds, and then the Oval, they're grounds where spinners can prosper. So do you think that balance needs to be Ashwin at 8, which helps with the batting as well? That's not the primary thing, but that spin could become important. I mean, particularly at the Oval, you'd think you want Ashwin there.
Yeah, I think the calendar might influence that decision more than the surfaces, than the venues. The fact that there's a week gap between now and Leeds, or the end of this Test match and Leeds, might be 10 days actually, and then the Manchester Test match and the Oval Test match are played in September. 2 spinners is stock standard. Well, maybe not stock standard, but when you've got the wicketkeeper batting at 6, then you almost certainly would play. You wouldn't have 4 seamers, put it that way, playing that deep into the summer, unless you're Australia in 2009 and make a massive strategic error playing 4 seamers as they did at the Oval and leaving out Nathan Horrocks. So on that basis, I think they will find room. It's how do they do it? Now, for mine, I'd be looking at, can Jadeja bat 6? It may sound like a big call, but such an improved cricketer. He doesn't resile from... This guy does not back down. He is exactly the kind of guy who would step up to a challenge like that. Yes, that means Rishabh, the keeper's batting at 5. I'm not saying it's the perfect balance, but if that's the way they want to do it and they want to keep all the quicks in play, well, that's one way of doing it. Alternatively, you just play 3 seamers and you rotate the 4th seamer through the final 3 Test matches. Perfectly acceptable. India have never had a problem in the past about rotating players. It's not about being dropped in the Indian team. It's less of an egregious sort of pejorative thing being left out of a side with India, especially under Kohli's captaincy. So if you tap Ishant on the shoulder and say, look, you're not playing at Leeds, for example, he's not going to take it as a mortal blow and it would ruin him for Manchester and the Oval, anything but. So that's how I see it being resolved ultimately, because I think all 4 seamers that are playing right now will have their say, if not in this Test match, certainly through this series. And very useful that Shardul Thakur is the man missing out this week, because he was exceptional last week at times.
Yeah, and I guess if he's your 4th seamer, then he adds a bit extra with the batting as well. Interesting to see Anderson do so well again. Loves playing India at Lords. 31st fiver in his career today. Didn't do anything particularly special, just did Jimmy Anderson things, and we've seen him have a few dry Test matches where doing Jimmy Anderson things hasn't brought him bags of wickets, and today it did. Maybe that's just the swings and roundabouts of being a bowler.
Yeah, I think that's about right, really. Anderson bowled really well, but he bowls really well every day. His length is immaculate. Look, he can... I was talking to Jeremy Coney about this just a couple of moments ago. Yeah, sometimes his line can vary when he changes plan, but his length's always the same. Set and forget. He's quicker now than he has been for ages. He's always up around 85, 86 mile an hour, and he earned that 35th fifer. The stat I love, 110 Test wickets at Lords. I mean, 110 Test wickets is a pretty good Test career, full stop. He's taken that just at Lords. And there was another stat from Andrew Sampson. Anderson is now the bowler who has the biggest gap between their first 5-wicket haul in Test cricket and their most recent, overtaking Lance Gibbs. I think Anderson, it's now 18 years and 81 days, and for Gibbs it was 17 years and 250-odd days. But yeah, yet another statistical achievement for Anderson. 35th fifer. I mean, as you say, he bowled India out twice 3 years ago in this Test match, and there's seemingly no reason why he won't do it twice in this Test match either. It all comes down to whether he has enough runs behind him in this first innings to make it worthwhile or not, and that's the question yet to be answered at Stumps on day 2.
He also takes the record from one of your favourites, Tiger Timmy Murtagh of Ireland, for the oldest man to take a fifer at Lords. So
I didn't know that. Good one.
He's got that one under his belt as well. The England innings, I mean, my goodness, like you and I spoke a fair bit about Rory Burns not being very easy on the eye a couple of years ago. Dom Sibley is a brutal batsman to watch. Like I'm just going to call, he's horrific to watch, but the way he got out today was one of the ugliest dismissals I have ever seen. Reaching a ball like, I don't know, 8 inches outside his leg stump and somehow managing to spoon it to mid-wicket. It was horrendous from anybody, let alone from an opening bat. I've watched it over and over again, just in fascination more than anything of how did that happen. Yeah,
there's a bit going on there, isn't there? Look, they bowled to his strength and they set a field accordingly, and sometimes that's really good cricket. I mean, it doesn't look at a ball outside the leg stump being great cricket, but Kohli knew what was going on. Siraj was equal to it, bowling to a plan. The 2 close catching mid-wickets, just the way that he got out at Nottingham in the first innings last week. I love the thinking that's gone into it. So, yes, it doesn't look good, but sometimes the best way to bowl to a player is to their strength. And Sibley can score nicely through mid-wicket. Indeed, it's the one part of the ground where he can look borderline attractive, but on this occasion it went straight to KL Rahul, as I said at the top, just after the interval. A really important time. He and Rory Burns got through 14 overs with their new ball, 14 high quality overs for the most part as well before tea. They only made 23 runs. They were doing their job, and then that massive blow, and Sibley was mortified as he was walking off, and I feel for him. I mean, a guy who's getting everything out of himself. He obviously pays attention to what's being said about him. He looks more, as other observers noted on social media, he was more side on today. He's obviously taking guidance from somewhere. It'd be impossible to miss the critique of him being, the ugliest opener to ever play and all the rest of it. And yet he's just coming out trying to do his best. And in those circumstances, to walk off as he did for 11 today, my heart sank for him, just as it did Haseeb Hameed. Next ball, Siraj, such a competitor, to bowl the ball that was going to hit middle, angling in, not super wide of the crease, but wide enough to create that angle, and straightening delightfully from a full length. And I acknowledge that it looks like Haseeb Hameed missed a straight one first up. It's not quite as straightforward as that. If you bowl that ball first up to a new batsman walking in, you are going to get wickets occasionally. Maybe not all the time, but quite a bit of the time, you're going to go past the outside edge and hit off stump. So, look, I think you just need to, chalk that up to a great bit of bowling from Siraj, who was on fire, and Haseeb Hameed will be back. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, we hear about fairy tales in sport all the time, but they're the opposite of that.
Exactly.
Everybody knows the Haseeb Hameed story, the way his game fell apart, the way he lost his first-class contract, and he's made his way back into the England team. And then, to see him get knocked over first ball was painful, for anybody who could empathise. Just really noticed that his feet went nowhere. Even watching the delivery live, I was like, his feet did not move. He just froze. He froze in the headlights, basically, and just poked at it from wherever his hands were, tried to drag his bat back across the line of the ball, and that's a recipe for disaster when one's aimed at the stump. So he'll bat a lot better than that. He'll handle first deliveries a lot better than that in future, but maybe just a bit overawed by the occasion. Which brings us to Joe Root, and maybe slightly early, but I'd nominate him for my player of the day because I know Anderson took 5 and all the rest of it, but like I said, didn't necessarily do anything much more special than normal. The number of times Root has to come in at 2 for 20, he has to do it again. In he comes, and he's on the verge of a 50 by stumps, and he'll be there tomorrow to take them on. He's gone past 1,100 runs in the calendar year, and it's only August. He's 650 runs shy of the record for the most runs ever in a calendar year that Mohammad Yusuf set. So he's in some of the form of his career in 2021. He's got plenty more test matches to play, but he's, as somebody noted the other day, this is like when Tony Soprano says to Carmela Soprano, "You're not in my life, you are my life." Joe Root is not in England's batting lineup, he is England's batting lineup.
Yeah, that stands to reason. I mean, look, he went past Graham Gooch's 8,900 today as well, which for so long stood out as a beacon, really, as the most runs scored for England. Of course, Cook's 3,500 beyond that. But the point is that he's gone from 7th to 2nd in the space of that 1,100 runs so far this year. And as you point out, he's well on the way to hauling in Mohammad Yusuf's 1,788, I think it is, by the end of this year. So he's going beautifully. The soft hands, the work behind point, the cat and mouse game with Virat Kohli setting a very wide slips cordon to try and cut off Root's scoring area behind point. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I loved it. The fact that they tried to squeeze Root early on, bowling at middle and leg stump so he couldn't get leg side of the ball. The tactical battle, the game within a game between Kohli and Root is a joy to watch. Even at one stage late in the day, Root pulled out because he could heard some chatter in the slips. Lo and behold, it was Kohli. It's just gamesmanship, but in the best kind of way. So, I love the way that Root's holding things together. My personal view is we've reached a stage where it's unsustainable for Root to bat 4 for England now. Look, he's had to bat 3 at a pinch in the past. He doesn't like batting 3, he prefers batting 4, in the same way that the best player, if you like, has traditionally batted 3 for Australia. The best player in England's traditionally batted 4, acknowledging that it's such a hard place to start and openers don't do as well here with the moving Duke's ball. Well, I mean, it's a moot point. If Joe Root walks out after the first delivery with 1 wicket on the board, or he walks out at 22 for 3, I would argue walking out at 22 for 3 is actually a tougher situation as the best player. So, look, he's been a test opener before. I don't think there's a lot lost, and I think they could use that move go into the future. I'm not saying it needs to happen, in the second innings, but that is one lever they can pull to try and just change the energy of this England top order, because they're 22 or 23 for 2 today, and they're sort of sod all for 2 almost every time they play. It's not sustainable.
Yep. Yeah, and Rory Burns did his bit today. I will put this on record. He looked all right at a few occasions.
He did,
when he
especially
climbed into a few pull shots against Mohammad Siraj, took on the short ball, hit a couple behind point, and had moments where he started to get going. So, there is always that hope with Burns. He made 100 recently. It's difficult to be consistent as an opener playing in England, but Burns is basically pulling his weight at the moment. The issue is with the other opening slot and the first drop.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I think that another good bit of captaincy from Virat Kohli to bring Shami on from the nursery end to Burns around the wicket at about 6:15 or whatever it was. The right angle from around the wicket to use the slope, and that's ultimately what did him. Hit the seam, decked back down. Burns caught on the front pad. He reviewed it, but it was hitting the top of leg stump. No question about the decision made by umpire Kettleborough. Good decision. Or umpire Illingworth, sorry. I've got Big Dick and Little Dick confused there. Umpire Kettleborough was the one that who confirmed it as the TV umpire. But, my point stands that that's Kohli thinking, being in the game, and picking the right moment to bring a guy back like Shami, who can keep the old ball moving around. It's not a particularly old ball, but old enough that you need to find something, and Shami always does. So well played Virat Kohli there too.
Shami always adds a bit of polish. Hall of Fame nominations, those moments that tickle the final word fancy. I've got a couple. Do you have anything?
I do. I'll go first then. So I've got one is that when Siraj, towards the end of play, thought he had Johnny Bairstow out caught behind and charged off towards the cordon, giving the big shh, which, by the way, that kind of works when you've been in a scuffle with someone and it's the end of the scrap and you're sort of sending them off without really sending them off. Bairstow was on 5 at the time and had been batting for 10 minutes. I mean, it loses its impact when you do it with every wicket you take. So, love Mohammad Siraj. We're amongst the number 1 members of his fan club, but I might shelve that if I were him. So that's my first one. And my second one involved Siraj as well. It was his hat-trick ball, 2 slips of gully, and then the Yorkshire wall on the left-hand side, on the onside, I should say. So, I mean, you don't often see 3 catching men at mid-wicket there for a hat-trick ball. Normally it's a packed cordon, but again, Kohli playing mind games with Root thought, well, we've already got 1 wicket caught in there. We are going to attack middle stump and leg stump to Root early on. We may as well do it from the outset, and it was an exciting build-up to the hat-trick ball. Unluckily, I'd say unluckily, it wasn't unlucky. There was nothing special about the hat-trick ball, but I was certainly egging him on to become the 4th Indian man to take a test hat-trick, but not to be.
Well, I feel like they should have that field all the time. Why not just have 3 mid-wickets, just to annoy the purists? Also annoying the purists, my first nomination for the Hall of Fame was the Rishabh Pant charge and then leave, shoulder arms about 3 metres down the wicket after coming down to, I think it was to Anderson, and then just raise the bat out of the way. No, I think
it was it the second ball? Was it the second ball he faced off Jimmy, I reckon, as well? Jimmy's bowling a brilliant spell and, everything's going right. And much as it was Ahmedabad, wasn't it, when Rishabh was charging and leaving Jimmy? I mean, you just got to love the way that Rishabh Pant plays cricket, don't you?
Yeah, just sees things differently and thinks about things differently. And the other bit that I enjoyed was when David Lloyd was on commentary and the camera was lingering on Bharat Aaron, the India's bowling coach. And next to him was another squad member with the little radio earpiece in. And so Bumble started relaying facts about Bharat Aaron's career in league cricket in Lancashire and asking the gentleman on screen to relay them to Bharat Aaron and check whether they were correct. Was getting nods and thumbs up. Yes, he played for this team. He took this many wickets. They finished 8th that year. It was a lovely little moment.
I think that constitutes an oldie but a goodie from Bumble. I've seen him do that one before, but it always works.
Yep. It's never not funny. If you've got someone with an earpiece, get them involved.
I think that's right. Geoff, should we put a full stop on this episode of The Final Word Daily? I think we've covered everything.
I think we have. This is day 2. I mean, there'll be other days. They'll come right after this day. That's the manner of sequential passages of time and the way that we divide it up arbitrarily in our understanding of time as human beings. So on day 3, we'll be back for another Final Word Daily. And all of our other podcasts are on the podcast feed. You can go and find them, punch it into Google. You'll work it out. Patreon.com/thefinalword if you want to support the show. And jump on and subscribe to the channel because we're gunning towards 20,000 and we're hoping to get there soon. Thanks for watching.
See you tomorrow.